racing fans in Canada, the exciting highlight of the season is the Players 200 race at Motorsports, bringing drivers and cars of international caliber to compete for the Players Cup and $10,000 in
racetracks used to be built with the land on top of it.
The race marshals round the track have a heavy responsibility. Their quick actions can prevent unnecessary pileups.
They used to flow. They used to demand respect and bravery. Some racetracks have withstood the test of time, despite changing attitudes on safety and design.
The ticket sellers, the night's work is just beginning. Right through the night, race fans from hundreds of miles around journey to Motorsports Park to set up camp, to meet old friends from last year, and to make this race meeting into the most memorable
Since
one of the
1961,
year.
this stretch of asphalt has remained largely unchanged. If this pavement could speak, the stories it would tell. This is the first permanent motor racing facility in Canada, and they call it Motorsport.
One week ago, SCRS Ferrari Challenge began a new fall season in the American South at Braselton, Georgia's Road Atlanta. This week, we'll head north of the border to Bowmanville, Ontario, just across Lake Ontario, for the second round of the season. And SCRS Ferrari Challenge takes on this 2.5-mile flowing road course in the middle of nowhere in Canada. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a fantastic night of racing. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Eric Mickey. Eric, we saw some really good racing last week at Road Atlanta. Big fields as well, with the Pro and Am cars dueled up together. But right now, we've got our Am Cup race about to kick off with over 20 cars for our second round of the season. So welcome to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, affectionately known as Mosport. We'll head down to the racetrack now as we get qualifying underway for our Am Cup drivers. Brian Sohn at the top of the board right now. And we'll have a quick look here at our track map in just a few moments. But a couple new drivers to go over here, Eric. Liam Sheen in the 002. A couple new names here this week. Darren Heath in the number 45 is also here. So some new names, new faces joining us here on the racetrack in the Am Cup class.
Yeah, Liam Sheen making his appearance. He's been known to Sim TV for a long time, appearing in many of the leagues covered on this network, and looking forward to see what he can do tonight. We've got Brian Sohn returning, who left midway through the year last season, coming back this week as well. And another new name is Dominic Dornenberg in the number 913 Ferrari. He was a big name, touted as a big name coming into this season by the guys who brought him into the league, and so it'll be interesting to see what he's able to pull off. And we got to remember, this is a big night for these Am guys, as some of them, based on their performance throughout last week and throughout tonight, could be promoted to the Pro category starting next week.
And speaking of the Am and Pro category, you'll notice a change to the timing and scoring here on the SimTV ticker. On the left-hand side of your screen, the yellow backgrounds with the black numbers, that are the Am class drivers. You can see the key there at the bottom of the screen. When we get the Pro-Am race later tonight, you'll see the Pro drivers lit up in red, and that is the same as the banners and the wing end plates that you see on the car. So 10 turns here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, known as Mosport. Over 20 drivers here for our first Am Cup race of the evening. We saw last week a couple incidents in the races at Road Atlanta, but honestly, not a whole lot of attrition, so that makes me very confident about tonight's events. But we'll talk a little bit more later about our keys to the race. But one of your keys, Eric, was the sweeping downhills and keeping the rear end behind you. How difficult is it to keep these cars pointed in the right direction through some of those faster corners?
That was one of the biggest struggles that I had with this car for the last couple seasons racing the Ferrari challenges. I just get into these corners and carry just a little bit too much speed, and I think the weight being more towards the rear of the car, this being a mid-engine car, just sometimes you would misunderstand just how much weight back there is coming around the corner behind you, and it's easy to get away from you. And we've got very fast sweeping corners at this track that you have to get the most that you can out of, so it's going to be very easy for these guys to find themselves. potentially going off track and clipping the grass here through that turns 2, 3, and 4 section.
So we're going to have a look here on the stream of our track map here, and we'll look down from high above 10 corners here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and it all starts with a relatively short run across the start-finish line on the right-hand side of your screen. That will take you down into a sweeping right-hander. That's turn number 1. You'll come over a crest and then head downhill into turn number 2, right-hand into turn 3, then down into 4. That's another left-hand turn, and then into turns 5A, B, and C, known as Moss Corner, and that is a really tricky spot to keep the car under control, but it's also a great passing opportunity. Then the run out of 5C down through 6, 7, and towards turn 8. That's a right-hander, a good passing spot there before you sweep into left-hander turn number 9 into a dip. You'll compress the car, then accelerate out into turn number 10. Another great passing opportunity towards the end of the lap, and that is a lap of Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Eric, also the end of these races, especially if the race is close at the front, that 9-10 complex is super inviting for anybody trailing the race leader.
Yeah, it really is. You can that backstretch is going to be a very key part of the race here tonight, because it's the one place where drafting is really going to come into effect, and there are multiple ways that you could enter that set of corners and multiple lines to get through there. So we could see potentially a lot of side-by-side racing and some desperate moves or really dangerous, daring moves in order to make passes, particularly for the lead. And I really expect that we're going to have close racing for the top spot tonight.
You can view live timing and scoring at simtvbroadcasting.com/timing. Looks like we've got Chris Hudson joining in. Isn't he a pro category driver? He's joined now at the bottom of the order here. Maybe he'll be realigned with AM, but he will start towards the tail of the field at the very least if he starts at all. Otherwise, he'd just be hanging out. But that's a good example of our pro and AM drivers. You can see the red versus the yellow on your screen right now. With 2 minutes left in qualifying, Brian Chabelski's gone quickest with a 1:16.552, and Bryce Calusa just goes quicker. How about a 1:16.502? That's 500ths faster. Corey Bunch, Thomas Morris, Brian Sohn, the rest of your top 5. Then newcomer Liam Sheen, Murphy Nichols, Drew Lidke, Ryan Plord, and Mo Islam rounding out the rest of your top 10. Another newcomer, Darren Heath, runs in 15th right now in that very pink-looking number 45. So he's sitting on pit lane. He will not get another chance to go as we are running out of time here in qualifying. But Ryan Daner, he jumps up to 5th place across the line that time. He was the winner of the AM Cup race last week at Road Atlanta, trying to do a repeat here in Bowmanville, Ontario.
Yeah, we just had Bryce Calusa for, I think, one of the first times pop up to the top of the leaderboard here. So showing a little bit more speed this time around than I think we're necessarily used to seeing him at the top of the road here. Typically, we're looking for Drew Lidke and Ryan Plord. I don't see Plord out here tonight, but Drew Lidke is sitting down in, I believe, 9th place right now. Calusa at the top of the board right now. Zabelski, longtime AM Cup pro, if you get what I mean there. He's been in this AM series and won championships a few times. And then followed by Corey Bunch and Thomas Morris, 2 Pinnacle Racing cars. Morris, of course, made his return after a long absence from racing with us last week, and had a big night as he now currently leads the AM Cup standings with a 3rd place finish in and I believe it was the Pro-Am Race 2. And with the way that this new point system works, if you can get into the top 5, top 10 in those combined grid races later on tonight, that's going to make or break your AM Cup championship hopes.
Ryan Daner across the line for a 2nd lap. He will not improve. He'll stay at a 1:16.640 is his best time. Christian Ost out on track. He's coming to the conclusion of a lap super fast through turn number 8. Going to be carrying a lot of speed. Stay off the curbing here to get you into trouble. As Ost works his way through 9 and into turn number 10. You can clip the curb there just a little bit on the right. Accelerates out across the line. Will it be an improvement? A 1:16.645. Yes, it will be. He will jump to 6th in the 157 car. The Complex Simworks car, as he's aficionado. He is a big sim racing hardware guy and also has all sorts of really cool stuff. So check out the Complex sim racing stuff that he's got. So down to the racetrack now. We'll go over our starting grid here in just a minute. But 15 minutes is what we're racing for here, Eric. Thoughts on, again, we're running a bit shorter than we did last season. How has that compressed the racing into a slightly shorter format? And do you think it's going to cause some more panic on these starts if drivers find themselves farther back than they'd like?
These AM Cup guys are used to the 15-minute length. That's what AM Cup was last season. It's later on tonight that I think we'll see the 10-minute shorter races really take their toll on drivers, as we're going to have especially in that race too with the 18 position invert. less time, 10 minutes less time to get back to the front. So the pressure is going to be on, but there's a lot of cars in this field right now. 21 cars going to be making the start of this race here. So and the points aren't really all that great until you get into the top 10. So that's going to be an important position to get for these drivers if they're looking at long-term season hopes.
Having a look here at our weather information, the air temp 72 degrees, track temp 75, relatively cool conditions. We'll be heading into the sunset later tonight. That'll be something to maybe worry about towards the second Pro-Am race of the evening. Again, these are our Am Cup competitors, and the yellow banner signal. You actually got really good compliancy with. I'm looking, and I don't see a single car without a banner, which is really nice to see. Is there a rule that they have to run it, or is that just everyone behaving and doing nice things?
We've really pushed to make it a rule for them to run it so that we can have very clear and visible designations, particularly in our Pro-Am combined races, and making sure that we get that SimTV logo on these cars, and just kind of make us look as put together as we possibly can. So we really do encourage all these drivers to have them, and some of them might have to be switched for next week, but we've seen very good compliance, and honestly, this is probably the best over this last few months, the best this league has ever been as far as league morale and activity. Our Discord is active throughout the entire week, so really fun group to be in charge of right here as one of the owners of the league. And I'd encourage anybody who watches this, if they've got the Ferrari GT3 on iRacing and are looking for a fun place who like to do things a little bit different than what you can find on official iRacing series, then look us up, SCRS Sim Championship Racing League on iRacing, and it should be fun.
So again, this is some of the largest car counts that we've seen here in SCRS Ferrari Challenge history. Always good to see. I'm excited because this is one of my favorite camera sets done by one of our old buddies, Finian DeCuna, who helped start SimTV a couple years ago. He has stepped to the side to focus on real life for a little while, but his camera sets are absolutely gorgeous, specifically at this racetrack. I think he's done a really amazing job. So all these angles brought to you by Finian DeCuna as we head up along the back straightaway now into what they call turn number 6. The back straightaway is considered a couple different corners, even though you just drive it flat out and straight. The slipstream going to be a big deal. Have a look here at our keys to the race. Turn 5 exit. We just came out of it, Eric. So important to get that right. Then sweeping downhill. Keep the car underneath you. And don't let that back end step out. And then playing defense. We talked about the last 2 corners at the during qualifying, Eric. It is so important to defend that final corner from attack from the second place car.
Absolutely. There's so many different lines you can take in order to make a lunge or a late attempt, and you're going to see cars potentially side by side swapping lanes back and forth from corner to corner. And I expect that to be happening for the lead all throughout this race, and we're just a couple corners away from getting this going.
15 minutes, approximately 12 laps here for SCRS Ferrari Challenge as we let the field roll on through the final corner, turn number 10. We are 20 drivers strong, make it 21 strong as we come out of the last corner. Time to go racing from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Green flag flies and we're racing here in Bowmanville, Ontario. Bryce Calusa clears the field down into turn number 1, and he leads Brian Chabelski. Liam Sheen's on the outside. Bit of a touch there from Brian Sohn. Bit of a hip check as they come out of turn number 1. And side-by-side teammates in front of them as they head down the hill into turn number 2.
Here's that dangerous spot. We see one car off already.
Looks like that's Murphy Nichols in the 55. He's gone way off, gets it back on course. No damage, he'll continue, but will knock him way down the order, unfortunately. Brian Chabelski now under attack. Car spinning in the background. It's Nicholas Morelli, 095. And he'll get turned around as well. No issues there.
In our Discord chat all day today, there was a lot of talk about how difficult these cars are on this opening lap with the cold tires before they get up to working temperatures. And I think we've already started seeing some of that now.
Christian Ost and Thomas Morris maybe leaning on each other just a little bit, getting physical, getting the elbows out here at Mosport. This is known, think about the NASCAR truck races you see here. Being aggressive is so important to being fast. Ost and Morris still leaning on each other as the 157 darts to the left to go around the outside of Ryan Daner, who is the M Cup winner from Road Atlanta, and he's trying to go forward. He started 5th. He's up 1 spot. Morris really wide there.
Set of corners. So difficult to try to carry speed off this corner without getting off into the grass on the left-hand side.
Into turn number 1. Sohn having a look at Thomas Morris. Liam Sheen following Drew Lidke all the way on the curbing on the inside. It's totally fair game over there. as they chase each other down the hill through turn number 2. And we saw only a couple of cars go off. Morelli and Nichols were the only drivers to have offs early in the race. And to go off in a corner like turn 2 like Nichols did and not crash, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely. He should be thanking his stars right now that he's still in this race and still has time to rebound for a better position than where he's at now. But it's going to take some work for the next just under 13 minutes to make anything of this race for him.
Getting really dicey into turn 5C. Drew Lidke having a look at Liam Sheen. There was just enough space to get 2 cars there side by side. Now Sheen's going to have to defend as Lidke chases him up the straightaway. Mick Blue's gone around at the exit of turn 5C as this drag race for 8th happens off into turn number 8.
More side-by-side action through these corners here. Let's see who can stick on the outside.
Bit of a nudge, and the Drew Lidke came over just a little bit on Sheen. He's going to have to slow way up to give way to Ryan Plord, and now Andrew Mickey wants a piece of that. Let's go back and check on Mick Blue. A little bit of damage to that car, but otherwise looks okay, so he will be able to continue. And now between Morelli and Nichols, so those 3 all had issues in the first 2 laps of this race. As we start lap number 3, Bryce Calusa. Think about this guy. He came from the Outsider Racing League Racing Cup cars. And the funny thing is, he's really good in these cars. And in terms of road racing in the stock cars, he doesn't really figure that out yet. So he's got the road thing sorted in the GT3 car, not so much in the Cup package. But he's running away with it right now, 1.3 up the road from Shabalski.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm dissing his skills at all, because we've been able to see he's been competitive in the Porsche Cup. He's now, for last week, he was competitive in these cars too. But we have not seen him get out and lead even one of these AM Cup races the way that he has tonight. So he's definitely making a statement with this run so far. And he's got Zabelski in second and Bunch behind him in third. And he's got a pretty decent lead of almost 1.5 seconds right now. So I think right now he's probably just hoping to hit his marks and thinking if he can do that, he can probably just hold on to this lead for the end.
Oh, man, big crash. That was Darren Heath and Anthony Montello that just had a big moment off into turn number 8. That car got airborne. That's the 24 of Montello. As we were watching those cars head off into the corner, there was a big moment of contact. Let's go back a little farther and see if we can... I think they might have gotten together here. Actually, no, Montello was behind. It was Heath in this pink 45. He's going to get turned off the nose of, I think, was that Nicholas? Oh, no, that was the 24. Wow, look at the air that he gets off that contact there. And they're both massively damaged. And we'll try to continue, but without a lot of the aerodynamic help with that front bumper.
Should mention these cars do have a quick repair that they can come in and get those cars fixed and get back out there and finish the race. And we do encourage all our drivers to take advantage of this. Our league is very open to drivers of all talents, and we try to keep a laid-back thing here. So that's part of those efforts to keep things a little bit more forgiving and a little bit more fun. And so these guys know that their race isn't over as far as being able to finish the race, but it's a long way to have to try to come back from an accident like that.
10 minutes to go. Bryce Calusa leads by 1.6 seconds. The battle right now is behind Thomas Morris. That's for 6th. Brian Sohn, Drew Lidke, and Lidke has been coming forward relatively quickly. Started 10th. He's up to 8th, and he has 2 drivers right in the crosshairs now as we complete lap number 4 and start lap 5.
A little surprised we haven't seen much out of our winner from last week's AM Cup race, Ryan Daner, in 4th place. Just kind of been staying there since the start of the race. Not much movement from him. Expected a little bit more speed out of him tonight, but this is his one shot. He doesn't race the other 2 races. His brother takes over the car for the night, and I think he was definitely looking for a little bit better here tonight. As I was mentioning, with the point system, the way that it is this season, he only raced last week in the 1 race, but he did win it and got 0 points for the other 2, and he was still 3rd in the championship after all was said and done. That's how important these wins in this AM Cup feature are going to be throughout the year.
Wow, so Ryan Daner unable to capitalize on more positions early, went from 5th to 4th and is stalled there. Morris now defending from Brian Sohn into turn number 8. Sohn will go the long way around, and he's a little bit off track. He's going to try to coax it back on through turn 9, and he's there, but Morris continues to hang on to driver's right as we head into turn number 10. This is a tight one as they come on through. A little bit of a touch there, and Sohn catches it and continues and completes that pass. Now Lidke has a look to the inside of Morris.
Yeah, Grandpa Morris has all the pressure behind him right now. Coming up on him, and this is, again, I think I'm a little bit surprised out of this one too. He's obviously with that 3rd place finish in one of the Pro-Am races last season. I mean, last week he showed he had the speed, but right now he's just not able to capitalize. He's dropped, what was that, 3 or 4 positions from where he started, and this is Andrew Mickey now off track.
Yeah, he's found his way back to where he started. All that progress gone. Murphy Nichols in the tire barrier again. You can see the tire marks behind him, and he has gone for a long excursion off into the scenery here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Here's a replay. You see the back end step out on corner entry and just unable to catch it, Eric, and this is what we discussed pre-race, and a little bit of damage to that rear wing.
I'm very familiar with that feeling. That was my number 1 struggle with this car, pretty much at every track, but definitely here at Motorsport.
Liam Sheen has also found his way out. Oh, that's a big moment there. He's destroyed that car. Didn't get a chance to see what happened to him, but Darren Heath is also out for the count. Anthony Montello bringing up the rear of the field. He's gotten his fast repair and is back out on track now. Jumping back to 6th place. It's a really tight battle right now with Morris on the outside of Lidke. Lidke checks up, and now Ryan Plord wants in on the party as they come across the line.
Yeah, that was not the start to the season that Liam Sheen wanted for the night. And oh, here is Ryan Plord. I must have missed him earlier when I was looking for him in the running order, but he's also not really showing the pace we're used to. Drew Lidke is right ahead of him. They're back in 8th and 9th. These guys are used to competing for the win against each other in this race. I think that maybe just shows you the difference in car. Coming back to this GT3 style, you've got the ABS and traction control that all these drivers are under a fixed setup, so they're all running the same settings as far as that goes, but it's obviously changed a bit of our running order here.
Yeah, you see this battle has been really persistent behind Thomas Morris, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Ryan Plord back into it here as they continue to run for the race inside the top 10. Up in front, though, no one's touched Bryce Calusa yet. He has not put a wheel wrong. And while Shabelski was a couple tenths quicker, as was Corey Bunch last time through, I think he's got a pretty safe buffer as Brian Sohn and Ryan Daner fight for 5th place right now, and Sohn going to go the long way around. He completed the pass for the 6th spot a moment ago doing the same move, but I think Daner's going to fight back hard on the inside, and they're going to touch and slide together, and they're going to collide, and Daner goes slamming into the outside wall back across the racetrack, and looks like Mo Islam tried to dodge it but could not, and Daner is out.
I was sitting on the track, thankfully he was able to back out of there before anything got worse, but yeah, it's a difficult move to make, to stick and come off that corner too wide. Very difficult to make that happen and be able to get through it without causing an accident. And as you saw right there, they weren't able to get through there cleanly. That is probably going to be something that the race officials will be looking at later on tonight.
Christian Oss has also found his way off track. Let's have a look here. This has already happened by this point. Just ran wide at a turn 1, caught the grass. Oh man, that's a big hit. But going back to the Daner incident, reminds me a lot of the Cole Custer incident in 2016 as this battle for 4th now continues. Lidke, Morris, and Plord. Reminded me of that Cole Custer battle where 2 cars just get kind of hooked on each other and they could not avoid coming together. So Lidke now defending for a top 5 position. Morris wants by. Going to get the right side tires in the grass going up the hill.
Yeah, these drivers had a huge gain from that contact between Daner and Sohn last lap, as they've now been able to pick up 2 positions, and this is for a 4th place finish between the three or four of these cars running here together right now.
And they will string themselves back out. 2.5 second lead, a big gain for Calusa that time. Shabelski and Corey Bunch made a little bit of a mistake, and they've dropped each other back about 2.5 seconds from that top spot. And going back to Mo Islam, I believe he is still running in 8th place, and the damage doesn't look to be too severe, but that right front, I guess it is the left front, is pretty torn up, as is the right front of this car. So he's, as I always say, sometimes you're the bat, sometimes you're the ball. And tonight, Mo Islam might have been both, but I think he was the ball in that previous incident.
Yeah, right now he's going to be looking just to finish off these last 4 minutes and take home this 8th place finish. Hopefully he can hang on. He's got about 4 seconds over the 9th place car of Dominic Dornberg.
Dornberg for his first start. Pretty good so far, 14th and 9th, plus 5 positions. And just getting through a race cleanly is all that you can ask for. As we go back up to Morris and Plord as they continue to run each other down. And Brian Sohn is about to join this fight once again after being shuffled out of the way with the collision with Daner.
Some impressive speed out of Sohn to be able to come back as he is after just having that incident a few laps ago. Lidke's been able to drive away from Morris for 4th place, and Morris now has Ryan Plord all over his rear bumper as they come past the start-finish line and back into turn 1.
3 minutes to go for the race leader. 2.7-second gap between Bryce Galusa and Brian Chabelski. The fight still for a top 5 position between the 99 of Morris and the 74 of Ryan Plord. Down the hill through turn number 2. Over 130 miles an hour at the peak speed through that corner. You're just relying so much on the downforce of these GT3 cars, Eric. And with downforce, the way it works, the faster you go, the more it sticks you to the pavement, which is kind of backwards thinking. Typically, you'd want to slow down, but corners like this, you want to charge.
Yes, and the X factor there is you're balancing what kind of downforce you have and can rely on with what kind of grip the tires have, and that can be difficult to find with these cars. As they are heavy cars, they're not adjusted. They're not necessarily all that much lighter than their road-going counterparts. So these cars are pretty damn heavy to get through these sweeping corners and hang on to them.
Up the back straightaway again, one of the longest straightaways of North American motorsports. You're just screaming by the end of this. Not quite as long as the one we were at Road Atlanta last week, but here's Nicholas Morelli now sizing up Andrew Mickey. This is into turn number 8. You can see him try to take a wider entry. Oh, big moment there. He's going to lose the back end of the car, and he'll slide around. Squeeze by does Mick Blue. And that'll be the second spin for Morelli today.
Once again, just losing that rear end. The tires were not able to hang on to the weight transfer that was going on in the rear of that car through that corner.
Thomas Morris still holding off Ryan Plord, and Plord's patience will have to be waning with about a minute and a half, and Plord's going to find his way off track. And he'll have to back off the throttle to avoid spinning, and he will do that, so he will carry on. But Brian Sohn now, smelling the blood in the water, is going to charge here into 5.
Needed break there for Morris to be able to open up a gap, to be able to have some breathing room and just focus on his own line rather than looking in the mirror for the next attack to come, as we are just about to hit a minute left in this race.
And find the race leader up the road. He is entering turn number 8 now. Bryce Galusa has led every single lap so far, and he will continue to do so as we come on through to pick up the white flag lap. And Bryce Galusa could lock up his first SCRS Ferrari Challenge race victory here. Nicholas Morelli has found another incident, this time much bigger. This is down in turn number 5. Here's a look. Oh, just caught the grass on entry, Eric, and this is going to hurt. Oh, man.
So easy to do, and we've seen it time and time again throughout this race. You have to push these cars so hard to make speed here, and there's no runoff. There's not a lot of curbing or safe space once you get to that white line. Right up at the edge of that white line is the grass. It doesn't take much to send you around, as we got a big crash after turn 1.
That's Ryan Plord, and he's going to try to get rolling. Dominic Dornberg going to try to squeeze around the outside. He did just that. And quickly, we'll go back and see how Plord found himself in this situation. I'm going to bet he runs wide right here, right there. Catches the grass and off hard into the concrete. And tumbles down the order with a very, very damaged race car. Eric Brown and Mo Islam. Sorry, Eric. For 8th place, Mo Islam and Eric Brown battling for position. Down the hill.
Looks like Islam's been able to open up a little bit of a gap there. But Brown is right there to potentially draft his way back up. But we're on the final lap in the final corners with Bryce Galusa coming around to take his first win in the SCRS Ferrari Challenge.
Bryce Galusa will go from pole to win. His first ever SCRS Ferrari Challenge Am Cup victory will come at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park tonight. For 2nd place, Brian Chabelski. Corey Bunch, 3rd place, then Drew Lidke, 4th. Thomas Morris holds off the drivers behind him for a 5th spot, then Brian Sohn. And Dominic Dornenberg will bring it home in 7th. Mo Islam and Eric Brown still battling for position, as is Andrew Mickey and Mick Blue. This is for a 10th spot, and Andrew Mickey will be able to hang on for that. So a little bit of attrition here. Murphy Nichols on back, crashed. Christian Oss and Darren Heath will bring their cars home in 17th and 18th, but quite a few incidents, and a lot of them at the exit of turn number 1 here, Eric. So that is going to tell me that in the second and third race, the Pro-Am races tonight, be very cautious at the exit of turn 1, because that's where we saw a majority of drivers have their issues.
Yeah, I think the hope is going to be that after watching this race and even participating in it for these Am Cup drivers, that when they get out there for race two for them in race 3, that they're going to be a little bit more careful with how hard they push these corners and how close they get to the grass, because it is not going to be forgiving, as they've already learned here tonight. So hopefully we won't have this amount of action as far as the crashes go in our next 2 races, but once again, we're just going to see everything heat up as the night goes on.
And, of course, issues for Ryan Daner. Last week's winner, he will tumble down to 19th, and that's where his night will end. Again, not done by any stretch yet. We still have a lot of racing left to do tonight. And we'll talk to Bryce Calusa at the end of the evening, as well as our other podium finishers from the evening. So 2 more races left tonight. We're going to jump away for just a few minutes. So make sure you stick around and come back in about 5 to 10 for the rest of the action. Just take a short break. Go grab yourself a drink and popcorn maybe to come back and watch the Pro-Am races here from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We'll be back in a few. Stick with us.
Fans in Canada, the exciting highlight of the season is the Players 200 race at Motorsport, bringing drivers and cars of international caliber to compete for the Players Cup and $10,000 in
Racetracks used to be built with the land, not on top of it.
The race marshals round the track have a heavy responsibility. Their quick actions can prevent unnecessary pileups.
They used to flow. They used to demand respect and bravery. Some racetracks have withstood the test of time despite changing attitudes on safety and design.
The ticket sellers, the night's work is just beginning. Right through the night, race fans from hundreds of miles around journey to Motorsport Park to set up camp, to meet old friends from last year, and to make this race meeting into the most memorable
Since
one of the year.
1961, this stretch of asphalt has remained largely unchanged. If this pavement could speak, the stories it would tell. This is the first permanent motor racing facility in Canada, and they call it Motorsport. For those who competed decades ago, speeding down highways, through towns, country roads. For those who sat watching on the sides of the street, who found solace in chaos and thunderous speed. Even for those who grew up without the sights and the sounds, and lived without race cars shaking the ground. who don't understand why racing appeals to our fascination, wonder, and the way that we feel. A purpose-built place to camp and spend time with friends, watching racing together until darkness descends. Though no longer do the streets rumble and roar, there's a place just for this, a park to explore.
A road racing circuit before the assault. The 4 twisting, beautiful miles at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. For 6 brutal, ear-shattering hours, its serenity will be violated by the raw power of screaming racing machines. It's the famed end-of-season endurance classic, the Road America 500. The specially constructed race circuit at Elkhart Lake at normal speed is a scenic 4-mile drive through fall-tinted Wisconsin countryside.
Hidden by forests near Elkhart Lake, not a path nor a trail, but a road meant to race. In a town too quiet, the refuge we seek, Road America, the racetrack, the National Park of Speed. For the
If there's one place that defines American motorsport, it's here. The sandy beaches a few miles away held races for decades. It's where NASCAR was born. They need a place to race, a super speedway so fast and so huge that the cars could run flat out all the way around. So they built it. 1 million square yards of earth was moved to create the banking. The void left behind became Lake Lloyd. And 2.5 miles of asphalt created more than just one of the most beautiful racetracks in the world. It built the foundation of NASCAR. In the decades that followed, Daytona became hallowed ground. The trophies here mean more than any other. Win the 500, put your name on the Harley J. Earl Trophy. Win the 24 hours and strap a Rolex on your wrist. The banks are not always kind. They're not always fair. And while Daytona wins bring a statistical highlight to any career, it's the losses that make it seem pointless. But for every untimely ending, there is a triumphant healing. For every emotional victory, a mind-numbing realization.
Tom O'Gorman fighting for every inch that he can possibly get. Won the last SCRS race of last year, Road Atlantic, starting things off in exactly the right style. It is victory for Tom O'Gorman and the LA Auto team.
I won at Daytona. I earned a trophy at the World Center of Racing. The checkered flag waved for me. For me, it was not the end of a career. While it may be a highlight, it is only the beginning. It's just the best ever.
Back live for SCRS Ferrari Challenge from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. It's time for our 2 Pro-Am races from Bowmanville, Ontario's 10-turn, 2.5-mile road course. Welcome back to Sim TV. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined again by Eric Mickey for our 2 remaining races of the evening. We've got over 30 entries for this field, and Eric, we thought the field was big in the Am Cup race. It's going to be even bigger here for the Pro-Am races, but now we've got our pro drivers with us, which means that they'll be denoted by the red backgrounded numbers on the ticker as qualifying begins. So it's going to kind of shift up the field just a little bit as we get ready to qualify.
Yeah, really looking forward to seeing how the speeds from last session, where they are compared to what the pro drivers can run here. We've been able to see for all of last season and last week too, the pro drivers really showed that they have that designation for a reason and they take up those top spots. So any EM driver who can throw themselves amongst them is going to be pretty impressive, I think.
See Sean Unterkoffler in the number 9 Project 2 car, and while I'm very impartial to each teams and drivers, but I can't be impartial. I think the Project 2 liveries are some of the most well done, put together schemes out there. Love the kind of matte colorations of them, and just beautiful looking race cars. They fit the car chassis itself well. I think they just are really nicely done schemes, and there's a handful of them out there, including Zach Buchanan in the number 40 car, who this week is running a slightly different one. This is his home track here this week, running the maple leaves on the side of the car. So if this is a track that he's capable of winning at, he's certainly going to show it tonight as he begins his qualifying effort, as well as Mitchell Welker in the number 77, the light speed car, and Kyle Lamb out here as well in the more typical looking Project 2 teal and yellow.
Yeah, they've always had a pretty good livery scheme and theme between all their cars, making them look very nice out there on track. So that's always cool to see.
Unterkoffler heads down the hill to start his flying lap. Kurt Crum back this week in one of the Bombshell Racing team cars. He'll come across the line to start his flying lap. We're also going to bring in Carter Kundinger in the number 02 and James Walker in 97. This is probably always the favorite, but I think we saw last week that it's not always James Walker that can win these races. We had DJ Alessandrini jump in. He is not going to be here this week, so Walker might have a bit better chance of winning both races tonight for Pro.
Yeah, I think he immediately becomes the favorite when you see that Alessandrini has not shown up this week to compete. And I think we kind of assumed it would be on a part-time basis, if not even just that one-off for there. So this is Walker's time to show if he is going to come out here and dominate this series like he was able to the Porsche Cup last season.
You can view live timing and scoring at simtvbroadcasting.com/timing to follow along in this session. Across the line now, the first couple times will come up on the board, and it looks like James Walker will put it on provisional pole, a 1:16.568. No, Zach Buchanan goes quicker. 2 Canadians at the top of the board, and that is not surprising, and I don't think it'll change a whole lot tonight. I think Walker will have to worry about this number 40. Buchanan's normally good, but you put him in his home environment, I think this is Buchanan's race to lose.
Yeah, and you see Buchanan's teammate Welker is 3rd place right now. Kurt Crum just goes up to 4th. Top 4 are all pro drivers at the moment. Murphy Nichols is the first AM driver and 5th.
Down the hill into Moss Corner, Buchanan has probably turned thousands of laps on this racetrack. And he'll exit out of 5C and get to jump up the road. So Kurt Crum goes 4th, Carter Kundinger 5th. And Corey Bunch, the quickest of the AM category drivers right now with the yellow background. He is currently 6th. Murphy Nichols, good recovery after the issues that he had in the first race of the night. Got his Smoketown Brewing Station car in 7th place right now. So a pretty good start to the night for the 55, at least in the Pro-Am races.
Yeah, he's going to be looking to rebound for this 2-race event here, as he's going to get 2 shots to kind of redeem himself after that first race, but it's going to be very important to keep it off of the grass.
Goes even quicker, goes up to 3rd on the board, a 1:16.281. That's only 2/10 off James Walker, who has just beat Buchanan. But is Buchanan going to go even quicker next time by? I wouldn't be surprised to see that. He improved on his 2nd lap, but who's no telling that he couldn't improve to go quicker on his 3rd. But Murphy Nichols jumping up to 3rd, that's really, really strong, especially for an AM classified driver.
Really is.
I was just going to say, let's be clear that an AM category driver does not mean that they are in any way inferior to the pro drivers in terms of pace, but it's just sort of the general classification that is made, and it's kind of common that we see a couple AM drivers, and you think back to Drew Lidke always kind of outrunning where he was supposed to be, and I think Nichols is going to do that here. Corey Bunch also doing the same, so is Bryce Galusa, all cracking the top 10 with the yellow on the side of the car.
Walker about to complete another lap, his 3rd lap of 4. These drivers have 10 minutes to complete 4 laps to get their best time to set the grid for race 1.
Out of turn number 10, a little wide there, gets the tires in the dirt. Will he improve? No, he will not. So a 1:16.004 is all he will get. 1:16.028, misses it by 41 thousandths of a second to Zach Buchanan, but he will share right now the front row with his Canadian driver. Murphy Nichols goes on through a little bit slower than the previous lap. Big wiggle, and he's going to go off. This is going to hurt. Oh, another big hit. And that's going to be the weak point for Murphy Nichols. He's got speed, but can he keep it on track in turn 2? That'll be a discussion. Here's Sean Volandia's 51.
I think Nichols is probably going to be done. I'm not sure his 4th lap is going to be able to count for anything. If he goes back out, he's on pit lane right now.
Colin Daner taking over the Calvert Dynamics team car from
Bryce
Ryan.
Calusa up to 3rd, our winner from the Am Cup race just minutes ago.
I'm really impressed with Calusa tonight so far and in this qualifying session, so he'll jump off about 2/10 off the current provisional pole sitter. Liam Sheen jumping up to 10th place. Now this is not a surprise to me, but certainly running well, considering this is his first ever Ferrari Challenge event, and he's running inside the top 10 in the Pro-Am qualifier. That's a really solid run, beating Jake Johansson, who's been here for about a season. So impressed with Liam Sheen, and Jake Johansson I think will probably go quicker here on his second lap out.
Looks like Walker did not end up completing his 4th lap. So he's going to be done with that 16.024. Can Zach Buchanan better it? I think he's done. His time is set.
Slight
Bryce
improvement.
Calusa is going to be the next car to come across the line, I believe.
Yeah, he goes quicker that time, or actually that was his last lap. We'll see where he comes as he comes out at turn 9 and 10. Needs to beat a 1:16.168, actually, excuse me, 1:16.0 to improve. He'll go a 1:16.6, so he's gotten all the good out of the tires at this point. Kyle Lamb, disappointing qualifying effort for this Project 2 driver. He's currently scored 19th. And looking down, Anthony Montella, Christian Oss will certainly be disappointed in how about a 23rd place qualifying run. I'm not sure he'll be happy with that. But look at the smattering of red and yellow we've got in the top 15 here.
Yeah, I think this is more surprising. I was expecting the top 10 to be much more red than it is right now. And right now it looks like you've got about an even split of 5 pros and 5 AMs in this top 10 in qualifying. You've got Calusa in 3rd, Nichols in 5th, Bunch in 6th, Plord in 9th, and Liam Sheen in 10th.
Let's also think about the invert for our second Pro-Am race of the night. You want to be 18th to take advantage of that inverted position. And I think by the end of this first race, I think we'll have a much more clear split. I think we'll see the red sort of trend to the top and the yellow drop down just a little bit. But Bryce Calusa is sort of the wild card. I'm not sure we've had him around long enough to really know if he is an AM driver or if he should be bumped to pro. He's had some really good runs, and tonight will be a good example to see what he can do.
Yeah, last season he joined us, and that was when we were running the Porsche Cup. That car is a pretty difficult car to drive, so we've definitely seen a difference in skill and pace between jumping into that car and jumping into these cars. So just because you were running in one general area in the Porsche Cup does not necessarily mean that when you get in this Ferrari, you're not going to have a better shot at it. And right now, Calusa's proving that he maybe understands this Ferrari GT3 and what it needs to go fast better than he did the Porsche Cup.
So Carter Kundinger jumps to 4th, the 1:16.267, pushing Murphy Nichols back to the top 5 position. Sean Volandia goes up with a 1:16.473. He will go to 11th spot on the grid. Mitch Welker, 16th place. I'm not sure he'll be thrilled with that. He's sort of in the danger zone. Isaac Snyder in the 23rd place position in the 333 car. I think he's another driver that you could log in the disappointed list, but he's not quite done yet. He'll get one more lap time in here as he comes across the line this time through.
Yeah, it looks like most drivers have completed all 4 laps. We're not looking for too many here who are on track to complete their laps in this next 20 seconds. So I think we're pretty much set, and James Walker is likely to come out of here with the pole.
1:16.688 for Isaac Snyder will put him 18th. And you're right, James Walker, Canadian hometown boy. He will be on the pole position alongside the other Canadian, Zach Buchanan, in the number 40 Project 2 car. Couple AM drivers inside the top 15 here as we get set for our first Pro-Am race of the evening. Then we will invert 18 and go for our final race of the evening. It is a beautiful day here at Bowmanville, Ontario. And have one more look at the weather information before we go down to the grid. 72 and 73, going to be a perfect evening for racing at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
Yeah, very kind of warmer night than we were used to seeing. Looks like it's about 72 degrees ambient, track temp at 73. So we it's a little bit warmer than we had last week, but the sun is going down pretty quickly here, and lights are going to be on in these cars. So the track temp or the track grip should be coming up.
We'll let the starting lineup scroll along the bottom of your screen, but it's all going to start with James Walker in the 97 and Zach Buchanan in the number 40. They will share that front row. The second row, Bryce Calusa in the yellow AM class car alongside Carter Kundinger in the 02. Moving on back to row number 3, Murphy Nichols and Corey Bunch sharing a yellow third row. And row number 4, back to the pro class cars with Kirk Crum and Jake Johansson. So the rest of those will go across the bottom of the screen here during the pace lap. We have 32 drivers lined up to go racing in the Pro-Am races here tonight. And looking ahead to the next week, we head off to one of my favorite places, Watkins Glen International. So really excited to head up to upstate New York next week and visit the super speedway of road courses. Eric, that'll be a fun one.
Yeah, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be a little bit more of a super speedway of road racing, because I think we're just doing the NASCAR version of the course, not the boot. So less corners. It's going to be a much quicker lap, much faster corners. The slower corners are all part of that boot section. So that's going to be a pretty hard-fought race, I would think, next week. So definitely completely different style of racing and aggression next week than we're going to see here tonight. Hopefully these drivers are all aware of just how treacherous this track can be, as we have 32 cars out here that are all going to be looking for some grip between those white lines bordering the track.
And as much as I enjoy the boot at Watkins Glen, I really do feel like the short course puts on better racing. You keep the momentum up higher, you can draft a little bit more. I'm definitely in favor of that, and look forward to seeing it next week here on SimTV at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll also be one of the last streams that you'll see on SimTV that will take place in my hometown of Rochester, New York, before I pick up and move everything to Chicago to work for Grid Life full-time starting in 2021. I'll be moving there this fall, and November 1st will be the day that I drag everything out there. So it'll be one of the last SimTV streams here in Rochester as we head down through turn number 2 and 3 and get signed up for our Pro-Am races here this evening. Pick me a winner. I want one of the Canadians, Walker or Buchanan. Which one wins this race?
I think Walker's going to come away with it, but I think Buchanan's going to be there all race long.
So through turn number 5A, into 5B, and into 5C. The field will sweep on through, get those tires warmed up. Our keys to the race earlier were including being defensive and getting through to the passing zones. You also want to be sure that you're not stepping the rear end out in those fast, high-speed right and left-hander sweeping corners as you look down the racetrack from high above. This is really the section that we're talking about. Really, turn 1 all the way down to turn 5. Those sweeping corners, Eric, will catch you out if you do not have those tires warmed up to temp.
Yeah, and I think this is, I'm not sure if this is a warning or just a straight-up bet to try to make some money, but Murphy Nichols has thrown out the idea that he's got $20 on him blowing it in turn 2 again here on the start. So, for the sake of the race, I'm going to hope that does not happen for his and for the field, because this starting up front is going to be pretty treacherous for him. So hopefully he's got everything under control. We're going to have some good, clean opening lap here and get to racing.
15 minutes on the board. We'll invert 18 after the conclusion of those 15 minutes. Side by side, 16 rows deep. Green flag flies. We're racing again at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. A great start for the 97 of James Walker. Buchanan goes down to cover behind Bryce Calusa. Carter Kundinger goes the long way around trying to get by that number 5 car through turn 1. He will do that as the rest of the field strings on through. So far, so good. The first half of the field is through, and now the second half is as well.
Very clean start so far. That's what we saw last week too. Hopefully this continues for the rest of this lap.
And no offs.
Oh, so one car off.
One car off. I jinxed it. And it's Mick Blue in the number 96. There's, oh no, Murphy Nichols has found his way into the barriers again, but Mick Blue, well, he's gotten back rolling. It was Murphy Nichols that we were looking at. And he will get going and carry on into turn number 5. James Walker leads the way as they exit.
I think he missed that bet by 1 corner, but he's going to be disappointed on both ends there, having it happen. And car off again, that's Mick Blue off track in turn 5, coming back on. He's able to save it. Great job there getting it back on track safely.
Corey Bunch under attack from Kurt Crum in the 87. Crum will go by on the inside. Not quite clear as they head off into turn 8. Now he is. Johansson sees the door open, thinks about it, backs out, thinks better of it. Brian Chabelski, Mo Islam into turn 8. Islam hangs back. A lot of patience I'm seeing so far. I'm not convinced we'll see that for the entirety of the race.
No, I think you're probably going to see some lunges here as these pro drivers are trying to get through these AM drivers who were able to outdo them in qualifying. That we should mention that the classification is a little bit loose. It's based just on general performance, a little bit of iRating involved, a little bit of past experience with drivers involved and knowing what they're capable of. But it's usually built on general experience. And one of the things that keeps some of these AM drivers in the AM class is not necessarily that their speed isn't there, but the fact that putting an entire race together is sometimes not their strong suit. So we'll have to see if these guys are able to hang on, as I think we've gone from 5 AM drivers in the top 10 from qualifying to just 3.
And Mitch Welker up 4 spots. Oh, there's a car off.
Volandia?
That's Sean Volandia, yes. He's gone off in turn number 5, and I want to go back and see if he was maybe helped. No, just got up on the curbing there and just backed it around.
Yeah, unfortunate, but I've made that mistake so many times here. That corner, that turn 5 is so difficult. I remember back when we did the Rodenzo Sports Car Challenge. Speaking of Rodenzo, I should point out that James Walker won the Rodenzo Pole Award for this race here tonight, and then Bryce Calusa got the AM Cup feature Rodenzo Pole Award. They have come on to sponsor the series this season, and we thank them for that. But when we raced here in the Rodenzo Sports Car Series for the Sim TV League, we turn 5 was my kryptonite. I was not able to get through that corner anywhere near as good as anybody else and the cars behind me, and it caused me to have to spend the entire race doing nothing but defending down that backstretch. So it's very difficult, very treacherous turn 5 at this corner.
For those wondering about what Rodenzo does, they're a radar detector company. They gave me one, and I was like, I don't think this thing works. Oh, it totally works. It's the greatest thing I've ever put in my vehicle, and they retail for about $250. And let me tell you, if it gets you out of 1 ticket, it's worth having. So if you want to keep your eyes on the road instead of scanning for the popo late at night, I highly recommend getting yourself a Rodenzo XP. Nicholas Morelli now passing Anthony Montello, and Mo Islam has found his way off course in 5C. And it looks like he just got in a little bit hot, did the same thing Volandia did, just a little bit more of it.
Yep, constantly C. Even in the real world, that is a treacherous corner for any series that runs this track.
Ryan Plord through to 8th over Chris Hudson in the 43. Hudson started this race in 9th. He has gone nowhere. And we're checking back on Montello, side by side through turn 8 with TJ Cooper. He gets past, Cooper goes through. Want to go back up to the front because Zach Buchanan is keeping James Walker in his sights. 4/10 is the gap as they come through turn 2.
And we've seen Buchanan be able to do this many times throughout the last season as well. He's able to keep Walker honest and keep him having to up his pace. And I think the hope is here is if he can't find the speed to get up there and challenge him straight up, is that the pressure he puts on by not letting him get too far away is going to hopefully make Walker get into a corner maybe a little bit too hard or a little bit wrong, and that'll be the difference that gives Buchanan an opportunity at the pass for the lead, and that's going to be his hope. And with shorter races, it's maybe going to be a little bit easier. Walker's not going to have enough time, the amount of time he's used to be able to open up a gap and kind of have a safe second half of the race.
Whoa, bit of a stack up into 5.
Down into turn 5. Volandia involved, looked like Steve Bunting as well. Car off. It's the 45 of Darren Heath.
I'll go back and investigate that a little bit more. Here's a look as they came. I think Darren Heath was behind.
I believe these are unconnected incidents. Heath just goes off,
and then
as we've seen a couple times already.
Yeah, Bunting had just got in. Going back a little bit farther, he was already off on entry, and Volandia was slow, maybe a slow down. Or that was Mo Islam coming on through, but they all continue, no major damage as we go back to the lead because Zach Buchanan is closing on Walker, was a 10th faster that last time by. And certainly, as you put it, keeping him honest, and he's probably having to mirror drive just a little bit.
Yeah, and sitting back there in third place is Carter Kundinger, not a slouch in this series at all whatsoever. His hope is that Buchanan can get up and start forcing Walker to start racing defensively. Maybe they get side by side, and that's going to give Kundinger an opportunity to get back up there with them and potentially battle for the lead of this race. As we see Brian Sabelski now in front of, is that Morris or Bunch?
It is Morris in the 99, so they will fight for 16. Shabelski's gone backwards in this race, going up to the race lead. Buchanan is there. He's going to sweep maybe driver's left. No, he's going to be patient here, I think. Now he's going to go driver's left into turn number 8 and try to hold Walker down there. And around the outside goes the number 40.
For this corner.
Oh, going to be really dicey side by side. The two Canadians going at it in their hometown. And a little wide.
The advantage, when they're side by side through that section of the track, you see the advantage just swap from one to the other as the direction of the corners swap. This is maybe some of the highest pressure we've seen Walker put up with, and Buchanan, I think, is really liking what he saw. He was able to see that he can get beside Walker. He has the experience now, at least from that bit there, to know what he might have to do a little bit differently to pull off that move.
You mentioned a lot of that side-by-side, how the advantage changes a lot as the advantage for Nicholas Morelli has gone away. He's off in turn number 1. You mentioned that the advantage changes a lot, but I think for Buchanan, he knows how to do this, and so does Walker. So they're both conscious of where they want to place their cars. I think Buchanan is going to want drivers right instead of drivers left, but Walker is going to know enough not to give that to him because you'll end up having the right-hander for really the final corner in that complex, which is the last turn on the racetrack, turn 10.
And the best thing about this is having two Canadians running up front. You know they're going to be polite and give each other plenty of room to have this race completely clean between them. Not going to want to make contact here. Is Carter Kundinger also Canadian? He was on Can-Am Racing.
No, from the Midwest.
Okay,
Close enough. It's America's Canada. Off into turn number... okay, first of all, if no one's coined that...
You're not joking.
If no one's coined that, I want that. America's Canada. Drew Lidke up to 14th. Liam Sheen has dropped down to 15th after starting near or just outside of the top 10. As I want to keep my eye on those two leaders because they're only 2/10 apart, and with how the advantages flow, you can see one of these drivers lose that 2/10 advantage very quickly.
Yeah, it looked like Corey Bunch just lost 2 positions in one corner to Chris Hudson and Mitchell Welker. Bunch struggling a little bit in this race.
Welker has done a really good job climbing through the field, 16th into the top 10 here into 9th. The frustrating thing is that if he finishes here, he'll really won't be benefited by the invert all that much. He'll basically end up where he was. Mick Blue has had an issue. He has reset back to the pits. Let's have a look at how he got himself in that position. He's going to have to go back a little bit farther. Just out of turn number 10, climbed up on top of the wall and got himself stuck. It's unfortunate, to say the least.
Yeah, not a good night here for Mick. As we saw his season kind of turn around midway through last year to have a better showing in the second half of the season. I think he was hoping for a better coming into this one as we see the lead close up, not just between the top 2, but Carter Kundinger is 3rd place. He is just about with them, less than a second behind. And I think this is definitely part of Buchanan and Walker giving each other something to think about.
I think there's a concern by Zach Buchanan that if he fights too much with Walker, that's going to bring Kundinger into the mix. Kundinger was the fastest car on the racetrack the last time by. So we're going to keep our eye on these front 3 as they continue to scrap. There are some other battles on the racetrack, but this is the one with the most consequence, so we'll keep you here for now. Buchanan's really good on entry into 5 there, Eric. He just charges the braking zone and is able to close a car length or 2 up on James Walker.
Yeah, but is he close enough this time to make a move? About 2/10 back, it's closing, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to try to get on the outside of him right now. Going to have to work a little bit harder to get a little bit closer off of the exit of turn 5.
He's
to
close,
really make something happen.
But not quite there as they head through turn number 9 now. Well, we thought about it. I can tell him that he's thinking about that over-under dive into turn number 10. That's a dangerous maneuver, but if they leave you the space, and James Walker has to know that. Last lap, if he's got Buchanan behind him this closely, you cannot leave that inside lane open because drivers will always go for that spot there, Eric, and that's just part of racing at Motorsport.
Yes, and I was actually going to point out, as we had that overhead shot, maybe we can look at it again from that view this next lap by, but you can see from that overhead shot to going through that section of the track, you can see where the lines are open for a desperate lunge from Buchanan to maybe make something happen and kind of put Walker in a bad spot where he's going to have to force himself to lift and give up the spot in order to keep from wrecking. So that's the advantage that the second place car has, where you can just really kind of put that driver ahead of you in the bad spot. But it looks like Walker had a pretty good gap on the exit there, and he's going to be able to pull away a little bit. He's got 4/10 now as they start down the straightaway. Biggest gap he's had in the last few laps here.
I think Walker's a little bit better on the second half of this track, and Buchanan seems to have the first half sorted out. You were talking about the lines opening up into the final corner. Here's a good look at what happens is the track actually widens out because the pit entry is on driver's right here, and that line opens up, and Buchanan has the opportunity to dive up underneath, but he lost a little bit of ground there, and Kundinger still putting the pressure on, so he has to be careful not to give up a spot. Dominic Dornenberg and Brian Sohn, these guys are battling here for 19th position. Sohn is through, but there's not quite clear just yet. Oh,
a little bit of contact. Sohn, I don't know if he crowded him or if Islam got kind of went in there when he didn't really have the space.
I think he might have crowded him just a touch, but it's hard because you have to track out at some point, but maybe he just tracked out a little bit too far. It's really difficult to get a decent angle right here. Yeah, there's a little bit of netcode there as well that maybe made that contact more consequential than it should have been, but Brian Sohn will be probably out of this race.
Buchanan was just all over and underneath the rear wing of Walker going up into uphill into turn 5. Very close now, closer than he was a lap ago. He might be able to get to the outside of him here, but the #1 fan of Carter Kundinger right now is James Walker, as Kundinger is now going to be, he's lost a little bit of ground then from when we last saw them, but let's see what happens here throughout these corners.
Buchanan still got overlap. He's going to dive into turn number 9, and Walker again. This is where you want to be on the right, but Buchanan's going to charge it in, try to hold him down. He's going to get run off the racetrack just a little bit, leaves some ground now side by side. 5 laps to go.
And just like that, Kundinger's back up with them.
Door to door. Buchanan's got the preferred line now for turn number 2, but he's going to get that nose chopped off. He might have to back out. He's not going to. Zachary Buchanan to the race lead in the Project 2 number 40. He takes it from James Walker. That's hard to do.
An amazing move by Buchanan to take over the race lead here with, we are under 2 minutes to go. I did not even realize this race has flown by, so that's a very important, move Buchanan just made.
Ignore the lap counter. That's probably calibrated incorrectly. So we are 1.5 minutes left in this race. Next time by, white flag. Walker up the inside. They touch. Side by side out of turn 5C, and now Walker's got the advantage again.
Kundinger is going to have a huge draft from both these cars being side by side. Can he get up there and pressure both of them and maybe take away the lead? But then you see the 2 cars behind them of Kalusa and Crum are also gaining because of the racing that these guys are doing.
This will be the final lap. Next time by.
Flag this time by.
Side by side through turn number 8. Buchanan on driver's left. Walker on driver's right. This is going to be so hard to run through here, side by side, next lap, into turn number 10, climbs the curb, they're going to touch again on exit, they collide, and they're going to crash. Buchanan holds on to it, he does! White flag in the air. What a drive by the 40 to hang on to that car.
It's amazing he was able to hang on to that. I was going to mention when they made that past lap, the previous lap, how hard it is to do, as we just saw netcode cause an accident. To be able to race that hard, that close, and trust that the netcode isn't going to take one of you out, that's difficult. Looks like they just had a little bit of contact there. See if Buchanan can get back to him before this race is over.
No, I would not count him out yet. He's got to be a little bit hot under the helmet. That might have been a bit egregious from the 97 to drift up off that curb. It's so hard to stay on the inside. We'll go back and look at it at the end of the stream here tonight, but Buchanan is going to be hungry, going to dive on the binders into turn 5A. Now he's got one more straightaway to get this right.
Not sure he's close enough. He's over 4/10 back as they start down this back stretch. He's going to be gaining. He's in the draft close enough to gain. I don't think he's going to have anything to get side. There's crash out of turn 5 just behind them. It's Mitchell Welker around.
In a bad spot, too. And he'll get turned back around. James Walker, after contact with Zach Buchanan in turn number 10, streams on through. Buchanan's still close enough for a dive if he wanted it. Within a car length and a half, checkered flag waving through the final corner. Buchanan going to take a dive, almost there. Going to try to bump and run, can't do it. Walker wins Pro-Am Race 1.
That's that Canadian that I was pointing out there, because Buchanan definitely looked like he had an opportunity to kind of wipe out Walker with a little tap there, and he chose not to do it and got him the win. Now, I'm used to seeing Buchanan. I think he's going to just appreciate the racing that they were able to have there. It looks like might be a little bit frustrated about not getting the win due to contact, but I think overall he's going to be happy with that he was able to have that race.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult to race side by side through the final corner here at Mosport and not run into each other. Just the way the corner condenses, it just leads itself to that sort of racing. But Buchanan did a good job. First of all, that should have been a crash, and they did not crash somehow. So give Buchanan at least a trophy for hanging on to the car there. He will come home in second. You noted earlier that the AM class drivers were not able to really hang on to their top 10 positions like we saw in qualifying. And you can see again here as we scroll back to the front, only 2 AM drivers lasted inside the top 10, one of them being Bryce Galusa. So did a good job in finishes in 4th, Corey Bunch in 9th.
Yeah, I want to throw out congrats to Corey Bunch being his first race with us. At least for a while. I think he has raced once or twice here before, but to come out cold and run in this race, getting a top 10 in a Pro-Am race, that's pretty impressive.
We're going to take a very short break here for the warm-up for our second Pro-Am race. We'll be back in just a few moments. Stay with us.
In the heart of Virginia, there's a stretch of pavement that has ingrained itself in American racing history. Built in 1957 with just a bulldozer and a plot of land, Virginia International Raceway has become an icon. Over the years since its reopening in 2000, it has hosted IMSA, the American Le Mans Series, NASCAR, SCCA, and Champ Car races. Legends have raced there, including Roger Penske, Mark Donohue, Richard Petty, Hurley Haywood, Dan Gurney, and more. Between turns 11 and 12 stood a defying feature, an old oak tree. This tree stood untouched, shading the south end of the course for decades. For some, oak tree became a symbol of VIR and a reminder of how road courses used to be built. They used to be built with the lay of the land, following each contour and moving around obstacles, not through them. Earth may have been moved, but not tarnished. Oak tree was a lasting memory of when tracks were not just built, they came to be, like the tree. Although oak tree no longer stands, nor does Hog Pen, turn 17, the corners both still bear the name of what used to exist. And the track stays unchanged the way it was meant to be, with the lay of the land, for the land. Maybe that's why Paul Newman called it heaven on earth.
Back live here on SimTV for the last race of the evening, the second Pro-Am race and the third and final race of round 2 of SCRS Ferrari Challenge from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Eric Mickey. We just saw a phenomenal race for the win. A little bit of contact. It's hard to stay off the inside or the outside driver when you're on the inside in turn 10, but I think Buchanan, as you mentioned, well, they're both Canadians, they'll understand, but I think that's going to make Buchanan extra hungry for this second Pro-Am race here. But they'll be starting 18th and 17th. Respectively. How does that change their approach to this final race?
I think their approach can't necessarily be about caring about each other. I think they're going to have way too much ahead of them to have to care about and work their way through. So I don't expect that we're going to see them two together necessarily in any kind of way where Buchanan might purposely or go out of his way to kind of cause Walker any problems. I think Buchanan's going to be more worried about himself. But I think what that does do, and I think and Buchanan, good hard racer, he likes to race hard. He enjoys when racing is that way. So I think there's a good chance that he's probably going to be okay with how the race ended there. But what that does do is the next time they are racing hard for position is he knows that if he leans a little bit on to Walker, that Walker's not going to have too much ground to complain too much about it. So I'm sure they're already have messaged each other in between these two races here and worked out anything they need to work out. So I think they're both just going to be focused on getting as good a finish they can out of this 15-minute reverse grid race.
So the field is finishing up their warm-ups. One driver that is looking for a bit of redemption in this final race of the evening is Murphy Nichols. He has had a lot of pace tonight. We saw it in qualifying, but the races have just not been well for him. Cannot seem to keep it on the blacktop tonight, which is a frustrating run, I'm sure, considering how well he qualified for the first Pro-Am race. So he will be trying extra hard to come from the back in this final race of the evening.
Yeah, he's very upset. We can see the driver's chat here. And he's very upset with his performance in both races so far here tonight. So I think the important thing for him to do is to get through this next race without it making any mistakes, hopefully not getting taken out by anybody else's, just put in a solid performance and build on that going forward.
And Mitch Welker, we're hearing, at least from my understanding, it was just a single car spin there on that final lap. Could have gotten the curbing, which turned him around, so he will start a little bit farther down the order than I'm sure he would like to. So just about ready to go racing for our final race of the evening, and your starting lineup will be available on the left-hand side of your screen. And Anthony Montello was the one that finished in 18th. Mitchell Welker, hey, look at that. He'll be second as he finished 17th in the race number 1. That'll put him in a great spot here for the second and final race of the night. Liam Sheen starts 5th. I'm not seeing a whole lot of red up there, so a lot of pro drivers got to charge their way forward.
Yeah, you see Thomas Morris starting in 3rd place. That means he did not have a great finish in race 1. And I know that's probably going to be disappointing coming in here at the top of the M Cup Championship. Not having a great race 1, but he's got the opportunity to run a solid race and hang on for as many points as he can in this race and see what he can salvage for the night.
About to begin our pace lap here for the evening as the Porsche 911 pace car rolls off, and the 32 Ferrari, I'm going to make that 31, Nicholas Morelli will not start this final race of the night. We have actually retained all but one driver through all 3 races this evening, which is nice to see as we roll down the hill through turn number 1. I think turn 5 was the issue this time. Race 1 of the night, the AM Cup, turn 1 was the problem. I'd say turn 5 and actually turn 10, the final turn on the racetrack, was the big issue for everyone in the first Pro-Am race of the night.
Yeah, definitely seen it change a little bit, the trouble spots, and I think that's a process of learning what was working in the AM race and adjusting for the first Pro-Am race, and then finding new spots to wreck. So that seems to be what happened, and now everyone knows what they got to do now to keep the cars on the pavement and going in the right direction. But we also have this invert with a lot of AM guys starting up towards the front, faster guys in what is essentially the middle of the pack with such a big field that we have. So I'm not really sure we're done seeing carnage for the night. Obviously, we hope we don't. We hope this is another good, clean start to the race. But if you ask me about this one, I think Mitchell Welker's probably sitting in the best position to take the lead fairly quickly and go off and potentially get his first SCRS win.
Up the hill now for the last time under pacing conditions for the night. The next time we'll see these cars under this pace will be on their cool-down lap. 31 cars strong with the potential for 32 should Nicholas Morelli maybe start from the pits. We've had immensely clean race starts. I don't know if that'll always be the case, but we've gotten really lucky so far, I think. Sun is setting here in Bowmanville, Ontario. Beautiful skies under a cool evening and a cool racetrack. These cars will be performing in tip-top shape with plenty of grip, but get the tires warm to make sure that you've got grip, and then the first time you head down the hill through turn number 2 here, Eric, as we get ready for our last race of the evening.
Yeah, just remember these drivers were talking all day about the tires being really difficult, the cars being really difficult to handle for the first opening lap. Second lap, third lap is where they kind of hit their sweet spot, and then after that is when you'll start seeing them have to work the cars a little bit more.
Final race of the evening for SCRS Ferrari Challenge. We'll see you next week from Watkins Glen. Green flag in the air. We're racing once more from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Montello and Mitch Welker pull ahead, dead even as they head down into turn number 1. Welker's going to go the long way around bravely on cold tires, takes the lead away as the rest of the field streams on through double file.
Yeah, it's kind of the move I was expecting Welker to be able to make and take off the lead. His job now is going to be get as far away as he can before any of the faster guys from the middle of the field can get up to second place and potentially track him down before this race is over.
Colin Daner had a big moment through turn number 1, was able to hold on to it there. On the outside, I think it's Corey Bunch in the 69. As everyone else has gotten through, no issues in the first couple corners this time through, which is always nice to see. Now down into turn 5 for the first time. And Welker going to try to recover from his last lap mistake. Car off the racetrack. It's Anthony Montello, the pole sitter. He goes wide in turn 5C.
Really unfortunate. He was looking forward to getting the season underway. He has not had a good opening couple of rounds to the championship.
Yeah, and he will have to come to nearly a complete stop to let the rest of the field by without pulling the car back on track in front of anybody. Shabelski under attack from Drew Lidke, and Lidke goes a long way around. Liam Sheen rides in 5th just behind them. Whoa, there's a car way off the racetrack. Isaac Snyder in the 333, he's upside down.
Not sure what happened there. Very weird to see that kind of a big mistake so early in the race. I wonder if he maybe got tapped.
No, just got in hot, get on the grass, and he's going to clobber that tire barrier, climb the wall, and turn upside down.
I think he's spending too much time in the prototype. Forgot where he was for a second.
Welker leads by 1.7 seconds. He's just got to run. The next pro driver is actually his teammate, Sean Unterkuffler. So if he can maintain a bit of a lead for now, he'll be in good hands. The 74 and 78, that's Ryan Plord and Colin Daner. They're side by side with Corey Bunch following in the 69.
Yeah, right now Welker's got the best situation possible for making a better night out of tonight than he maybe thought he had. Here comes Kurt trying to get through on, I believe that is...
Zach Buchanan right in front of him.
There we go.
And it's also Bryce Calusa alongside with James Walker in behind. So getting really busy back here with a couple of our pro drivers that we know are capable of winning these races, but they've got cars to get by and get through first. Buchanan sort of leading the charge, 17th to 12th here in the first couple moments.
Yeah, you know, Kurt Crum there in, 15th or 14th position?
14th right now.
I think is Walker off track off the final corner in the grass. Now he's under attack from
Kyle Lamb in the 42 up underneath him as they head through turn number 1. Behind Eric Brown, Sean Valandia, Dominic Dornenberg.
Listen, the one downside to those cars all having the same paint scheme is sometimes I forget which ones that are in which colors.
Liam Sheen loses a spot to Unterkuffler. He jumps his way into 5th place. 1:16.9 was 4/10 slower than the race leader, Mitch Welker, right now. So Welker continues to expand that lead now to 2 seconds flat. If he just doesn't make any mistakes, he will have a sizable lead and a pretty good buffer over anybody that wants to go up there and take it away.
Yeah, I think this is Welker's to throw away right now. As we look back in the pack, we've got Walker still trying to make his way towards the top 10. Has not seen much ground made up from these pro drivers against the AM drivers who have taken over the top 10 for the most part. Plord looks like he just got around Liam Sheen for 6th place.
And Liam Sheen's going to drop down a little bit. I think he's run a little wide. He's getting bullied, and maybe a touch there from Corey Bunch through turn number 9. Bunch is going to go the long way around. Sheen's been doing a great job of, when he gets swarmed like this, he's doing a good job of not creating bigger issues, as Buchanan's going to try to split them 3 wide but has nowhere to go. And he's trying to run from Crum and Kundinger and Walker behind, so his intensity level is probably quite high right now as he finally finds a way around.
Buchanan's probably been the most impressive of the pro drivers that got stuck in the middle of the field with the invert, as he's already back up into the top 10 just behind Hudson. He's only got a few pro drivers ahead of him as far as the points go for that.
Liam Sheen, Bryce Calusa now side by side for 12th spot. Calusa will take it. Kirk Crum tucked in behind. Remember, the lap counter is, I got to change that to time only, as it's selecting, because it's a heat race, it's selecting the laps that were set for the session. Touch there. And Crum works his way up into 13th.
Tight turn 5, showing itself once again as they come together with a little side-by-side contact. Looks like everything's going to be good as far as damage goes.
Here's Lidke to the inside of Shabelski. Shabelski gives him the spot. 2 teammates working together there. And James Walker, Liam, wow, this is getting really condensed through turn 8. Kundinger, Walker, Sheen, and Lamb all together with Kirk Crum leading the train. Oh!
Dive by Lamb. underneath in the final corner. Sheen has just been used and abused here tonight.
Yeah, 5th down to 18th. So that's down 13 spots. He's just been trying to stay out of the way. Whoa, Volandia off the racetrack. So is Sheen. He'll pull it back on. You see in the background Murphy Nichols going for a bit of an off-track excursion. He gets it back on. The progress for Nichols has been slow. He's only up 5 spots, but just trying his best to keep it on the blacktop here tonight and maybe get a decent finish out of this.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we were talking about. Just try not to get the car spun, as we see Volandia off track rejoining the track. Seen him in trouble a couple times here tonight.
Ooh, big dive on the brakes for Mick. Oh, that was a 157 to Christian O's. Brian Sohn on Volandia. Big stack up into 5A. And Murphy Nichols wants by now as well. He could pick 2 or 3 spots up with a good run here. He's trying to side draft a little bit like NASCAR style.
Here's where, when you're having a bad night like Nichols is, you got to pick your battles and make sure that you come out of this without a wrecked race car. And it looks like he took the calmer way through.
Or not. He's going to have a big moment through turn number 9. Drove that car to slide for a moment. He's making a show out of this as he comes out of turn number 10. Now a good run on the 157. Go hard or go home, it says in the back of the 157, giving some advice to the 55.
Yeah, I think what happened there was Ost got a little bit out of shape, as so did Murphy Nichols through turn 1, and then Nichols saw his opportunity to get by and just wasn't able to pull it off. Mick blew on the outside of Nichols, but...
Oh, he's off again!
And now he's off the track.
And this time a little bit less severely, but trying to keep it on track tonight has been the tricky part for the 55. Here's Eric Brown and Mo Islam battling for 18th spot. And the 206, we haven't really seen a whole lot today, but he's up 5 spots.
Yeah, it was very impressive last week. Talked about him a lot throughout the night, and this week just seems like he's having a quieter night, less
drama
front than he would like to. Yes, that's what I was trying to
I think the 55 of Murphy Nichols would like to have a quiet night. I think having a not quiet night has been his big issue this week. There's Steve Bunting. These guys have been around each other all night long. Montello's back here as well. Big checkup into 5A. For second place, Thomas Morris has found his way here, and nobody is able to compete with Mitch Welker. He's almost 4 seconds up the road with this time it'll be 6 laps to go instead of 9. Again, that's counting the laps that are allowed in the session, not how many are left in the race. About 5 left in the race.
Yeah, and we've got Lidke sitting in 3rd, and I would think, if this was last season, I would think that if he was able to get by Morris, he might have had something for Welker, but he just really hasn't showed that he has that kind of pace in the GT3 machinery, but I'm sure he's going to be doing all he can to get that second place spot from Morris, but Sabelski's right behind him, sitting in 4th place.
Well, Zach Buchanan is running the quickest of the drivers that finished in the top 5 last time. You can actually give Kurt Crum and Carter Kundinger just a little bit quicker last time around, but Buchanan is certainly on the charge in heavy traffic right now. And he's a long ways up from Walker. He's about 6 spots in front of his Canadian nemesis as he climbs up the back straightaway. I think a top 5 is easily within range. And this would be a great points night, even without a win. A fantastic points night for the 40 if he could get up inside the top 5.
Yes, if he can accomplish that with Walker having the struggles he's having to get through the field, that's going to be a big night for Buchanan as far as the season-long championship is concerned.
There's Bryce Calusa and Jake Johansson. This is for 11th. Calusa on the left as they head into 9, the left-hander. And you see behind, that's Kurt Crum. Patiently sit and watch these two battle it out before he tries to figure out a way around.
Crum, I know, is looking for a better night here. Just haven't seemed to be to shown that he's figured out what the car needs. I know him and I are both been preparing this week for a TCR race at Road America. Maybe that's crossing up his muscle memory for tonight, but I know that's not going to be something he uses as an excuse.
Chris Hudson is right in front of Zach Buchanan. Buchanan has been sort of caught in traffic here, and it has slowed him down fairly significantly. And he needs to get by this string of cars if he wants any chance at a podium. He still could get there. He's going to go up the inside of 5C. Backs out of it. That was really gutsy. He probably could have made it stick had he gotten a little deeper into the corner, but not quite far enough alongside Hudson.
Now that would have been a much more aggressive move he would have had to make and potentially cost himself some dramas later on here tonight.
Here's Unterkuffler and Colin Daner. This is for 6. Colin having a really solid run. Started in 11th, got the advantage of the invert. And we'll start there, and has gone up a couple spots as Unterkuffler goes by. for charges turn 10 to avoid getting run into. Big slide for Daner. Hangs onto it.
Side by side through turn 1. Daner on
Oh,
the
no, there goes Hudson.
And they make contact.
Oh, Buchanan.
It's not going to look good.
Oh my goodness, I cannot believe Zach got through that. He's got damage on both corners of that car. He has been hit and run into a couple times tonight, and he's persisted and somehow not gotten involved in a whole bunch of wrecks. Headlights flashing, the intensity rising. Welker leads by 4.3. Morris defending for second.
Yeah, let's see what kind of pace Grandpa has here to hold on for second place with just a few minutes to go.
Yeah, a couple teammates behind him. 3.5 minutes to go, so this will be 3 laps left as they come across the line this time through. Carter Kundinger is having a look at James Walker here up the back straightaway.
Going to have a huge run, probably going to be able to get on the outside of him going into the next corner, but is he going to be able to complete the pass? Looks like, is he almost trying to bump draft him, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like they're actually working together. Into turn 8. Walker has been unable to go much farther than 13th spot. As Colin Daner now the next on the chopping block for Zach Buchanan, and I imagine Buchanan will make short work. I wonder how much damage there is on this 40 mechanically. Visually it doesn't look great, but mechanically it might be okay.
Yeah, aerodynamically he's probably going to struggle a little bit through these next few corners. Was that Lidkey around?
It is Lidkey. He has turned his car around at the exit of turn 1.
Wonder if that's a result of an attempt on Morris, or nope. Look like he just gets in the grass once again, as we've seen multiple times tonight. Turns it into the wall. That's really unfortunate.
Just gets back rolling. He'll drop all the way down to 26th spot. Moves Buchanan up to 7th, and the battle in front of him becomes for 6th with Colin Daner.
Buchanan's so good through turn 5. But when he's that good through the center, he kind of gives up a little bit on exit, and Daner was able to pull away. I'm not sure he's going to have enough to get next to him. He's got to maybe adjust the way that he approaches that corner, try to get closer on the exit than he does through the center.
Looking back a little deeper, James Walker and Kurt Crum going at it. As Unterkoffler and Plord are side by side. This is for 4th, and that was almost a touch there. Unterkoffler's through.
Good move by Unterkoffler to get to the 4th position. Daner's now under attack from Buchanan.
A couple slices and dices down into turn 1 for the 4th place cars. Buchanan really being aggressive on the turn 1 curbing to try to shorten that corner up, but ends up running a little slower through there.
Should mention Ryan Plord up there in 5th place. This is the best he's run all night. I know he benefited from the inversion, but he's up there now, been able to stay up there. We got 2 wide back there with Kalusa and Bunch.
And Johansson, you could join that. And here's Kurt Crum and James Walker. They're going to scatter as they try to get around him. Buchanan is through Daner almost. No, he's not. And he'll have to back out of that. Oh, there's a push up the road. I think Buchanan's
side off this. They're going to set every car up behind them very nicely for a big draft coming down this back stretch.
And next time by will be white flag for the race leaders. Buchanan all over the back of Daner for 6th. Great points night at hand for Buchanan if he can get up and finish in front of the drivers that are chasing him down, and he's through.
Walker just took out Kurt. A little
wow.
bit of contact on the exit, on the entrance to that corner. Not sure if he necessarily had the space to get there, but he tried.
Here's a look as they came down into turn number 8. Oh yeah, I just misjudged it and tapped Kurt, and Kurt will slide backwards into 18th place, not able to take advantage of any other invert. Mitch Welker takes the white flag lap down through turn number 3 now. This has been an easy race for him. Buchanan is finally through Daner, and might be a little bit too far back to go get Ryan Plord, but still fighting for every spot he can get. Oh, in trouble. The Unterkoffler and Plord have spun each other out. Buchanan's through to 4th. Go back and have a quick look.
Buchanan.
Oh.
Just way too hard and could not slow up. If he had hit the brakes any harder, he probably would have spun himself around. He was trying to avoid doing that, but unfortunately he also ended up taking out another driver.
And they'll finally get back rolling. A lot of scrambling going on in the back of the field right now as there's a big train of cars heading up the back straight. Mitch Welker out front by nearly 6 seconds. His teammate got knocked out of the way for the win in the first race, but Welker, after a spin in turn 5 in race number 1, sweeps through turn 9 and 10, and Mitch Welker, for the first time in SCRS Ferrari Challenge, finds himself in victory lane, the Pro-Am race here at the end of the night. Mitch Welker wins Motorsports. Second place, Thomas Morris. Brian Chabelski will finish in third. Then Zach Buchanan rallies for fourth as everybody else behind him scatters as they come to the line. Nose to tail, about 10 cars deep. And ooh, Murphy, or actually that was...
right at the finish.
See if that was that Mo Islam. Might have been. Nope, it was the driver in front of him. James Walker, I think it was. Wow.
A lot of carnage there in those last few laps.
A lot of pushing and shoving. Welker, victorious, brings the victory home for Project 2 at the end of the night. I'm sure that Unterkuffler will have some words with Plord, as that was a little bit egregious looking. We'll have a look at that probably post-race. We'll have a look here at our race results after a wild night of racing in Bowmanville, Ontario. That's a much more scattered bunch. 6 pros and 6 pros and 4 AMs. Morris with a really solid run. Chabelski, how about a third place for Brian?
Yeah, big night for big race 2 for Brian and for Morris. He got that third place in race 2 last week. He got a second place in race 2 this week. This is going to be, he's really setting himself nicely for that AM Cup championship. And as we look back, we got Buchanan, as we mentioned, 4th place, Daner in 5th.
Yeah, Daner comes home inside the top 5, then Bryce Galusa, Johansson, Bunch, Walker, and Kunding are the rest of the top 10. Here's 11th through 20th. Murphy Nichols gets a top 20 at the end of the night. I'm sure he would have liked better. Liam Sheen, as far as he got pushed back, he ended up actually finishing in 13th, so Sloan said he didn't win him the race, but it got him a top 15. Brian Sohn ended up out. Ryan Plord ended up towards the bottom of the order, unfortunately, and of course a couple drivers that did not start or had other issues throughout the race. But a wild one here from Motorsport. We'll be back in just a few minutes. It's going to take us a little while to round up who we want to talk to. There's a few. We'll be back in a moment. Stay put. Back live here at SimTV for post-race interviews after SCRS Ferrari Challenge from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Here now with Zach Buchanan in the number 40, second place in race number 1, 4th in race number 2. Best average finish of anybody tonight. Great points night. Perhaps a disappointing result to the end of race number 1. Got a little bit of contact there and got shuffled out. But through race 2, while you got held up in a couple places, a 4th place run, still a very positive end to the night for you.
Yeah, I can't be too upset. I think tonight was the night in the past 2 seasons I've run in this series where I hit every single one of my marks. I'm pretty happy. I still feel pretty out. I feel like that first race was mine to win, but me and James were just racing each other hard, so I can't be too upset with how that happened. And in the invert race, I just did my best to get through the field, and I had some issues along the way, but I feel like I proved that I was the guy to beat tonight, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, it seemed like you definitely had the pace over everyone else. We had to Watkins Glen next week. Zach, similar racetrack in several ways. Your thoughts on how competitive you'll feel like you'll be there?
I feel like it'll be a lot of the same. It's the things that make Watkins Glen race like it does are pretty much the same as at Motorsports. I think we're going to see another really close race in both races. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Zach Buchanan, 2nd and 4th, 2 really strong top 5 runs. Zach, thanks for talking. Move on now to Brian Chabelski, who was podium in race number 3 of the night, the second Pro-Am race. Brian, you're in an AM class car, but it was not an AM class performance tonight. You finished up inside the top 5, podium for you in race number 2 in Pro-Am. Take us through that race and starting 4th and hanging on to it up in 3rd. Walk us through your night and tell us how it was out there.
Well, it was certainly a night. And the AM race, it was kind of a situation where I felt like I had pretty good speed, and I was like, hey, I'm on pole. And then I looked over, and there's Bryce on pole. All of a sudden, like at the end of the session, I'm like, oh shoot. Well, I was trying to do what I can, focus on keeping it clean, bringing the car home, and seeing what I could bring in all 3 races tonight. And first race was was on the outside, not in a great position at the start, just to deal with that, having to avoid not driving over a bunch of people. Lost a couple spots, just kind of was like, all right, I'll get what I can get, and we'll worry about race 2. And then race 2, starting 4th, and my hope was to kind of try and see if I could follow Mitchell through on the first lap, because I knew he was going to go through and go to the lead, and I was going to try and see if I could tail him. But at the start, Anthony got a pretty good start, and I couldn't really do much. And Thomas had a great night too in race 2, and he was beside me, so I kind of lifted just a little bit just to make sure I could get him through. Only thing that really kind of stunk was I was kind of sad that we couldn't bring home a 2nd and a 3rd and get 2 podium spots for Can-Am. Drew went off there, and unfortunately, you hate to get 3rd and get gifted by a teammate that hits the wall.
Well, still a strong road regardless. Brian, next week we take on Watkins Glen. Good luck to you there, and congrats on a nice finish.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to our race 2 Pro-Am winner. That will be Mitch Welker in the number 77. From utter disappointment in the first Pro-Am race of the night to absolute victory. Your first SCRS Ferrari Challenge win comes at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park after what you described as, a effing smooth brain moment in the chat. You ended up coming out and winning race 2, Mitch. So first of all, that was hilarious. Second of all, congratulations.
Thanks.
Take us through the start of that one and what was going on behind you, and were you at all concerned that some of the other pro drivers would charge their way through the field and run you down?
I guess you always carry a little bit of concern. But as soon as I took the lead in turn 1, I kind of knew I just needed to drive smooth, and I'd kind of it wouldn't be a hard fought victory, let's say.
Next week we head to Watkins Glen International. That's a racetrack that Zach Buchanan says races in a very similar way, and the things that make that track race the way it does are very similar to here. Is that an advantage next week? Because even in race 1, you had the pace to be competitive.
Could be. I guess, I guess it might be similar to a degree, but even then, every track is different. And, we'll just have to see when we get there, I guess.
Mitch Welker, first win in SCRS Ferrari Challenge. Congratulations. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, that'll conclude things here for the night, Eric. What a wild evening of racing. This is did not let us down. It never usually does, but Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, one of the best racetracks on the continent of North America. Your final thoughts here from Mosport?
On the overall, I think we saw a little bit more carnage than we saw last week. But I think we also saw a lot of closer and harder racing, and just again these drivers showing off their skill in this formula that works. It's entertaining, it's very exciting. They all care, but they all have respect for each other and what they're doing out there. 2 out of our 3 races saw first-time SCRS winners, so I think anytime you get that, it's always nice to see new faces up front taking home victories. Walker once again staking a claim on that race 1 Pro-Am race to solidify himself as the championship favorite. You got Thomas Morris taking all the points for the AM drivers in that inverted race in race 2 once again, and that's big for him as he tries to chase the AM Cup championship as well. So I think we saw a lot here over these first 2 weeks that are going to be setting up for some very interesting things to continue to follow for the next 7 until we get to the finale.
Certainly a really strong night of racing here, and we'll see you next week from Watkins Glen, New York. Next thing you'll see on Sim TV will be Silverstone Saturday morning racing with the Formula I, F3, and F1 championships, and then Saturday night Kentucky Racing, Outsider Racing League, before we bring you back more three-wide Cold Hard Art Cup Series 1987 stock cars. They'll be headed off to their next event, which will be at Charlotte. Then Fuel Premier Mission 22 Series Fuel Finals action from Lucas Oil Raceway Park, then back again next week for Watkins Glen, New York. We'll head back to the home track of Watkins Glen next week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.